Hey, welcome everybody to another Monday after a wonderful holiday. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday break. All right, let's get into it because we are going to have an exciting show for you today. I am Dave Cooper, davecooper.live, and this is a Monday expert interview. So with that said, we are bringing you the people, the processes that are building it better. Our guests and topics include experts in building systems to building science, building codes to the tech that is used to build it better. And with that said, today's a fun day because we have two special guests coming on. We're going to have Greg Ugalde, who everybody already knows from the show, the immediate past chairman of the NAHB, joining us in just a moment. And we're also going to have John McGeary on the show. John is the NAHB Senior Vice President of Business Development and Brand Strategy. And you guessed it, we are going to talk about IBS and what is happening. And guess what? It's from the top. We're going to hear it all from the people who are putting it together. So let's bring Greg in real quick. Greg Ugalde, how are you, my friend?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful. It's Monday. We have you on the show. It's a little cloudy and rainy out, but outside of that, it's a great day. How have you been?
Not bad. Not bad. I see that they're closing the rinks up on us for a bit, but we'll get them back open soon.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know, we love our hockey, so hopefully we'll get the kids back out there. So, Greg, we have 1 hour, but we got a ton of information to get through today. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background on who this John McGeary guy is that we're going to have on in a moment? And I figured you'd be the best person to do that introduction.
Sure. You know, Dave, you and I talk a lot about how your audience and people are just trying to figure out how we're transitioning into what IBS is going to be. You know, people picture the 1 million square feet of exhibit space and 100,000 people milling around and having time to visit with each other in the halls and everything. And so what are we going to trade off and transition to? Well, it's quite exciting because it opens up a whole new opportunity list and is so many things that John's going to get into. So John is our member of our senior management team that is responsible for IBSx and for everything about it. Terrific guy and a real hard worker. You're going to get that sense as soon as he starts presenting. But listen and get your questions ready because he has a lot of great information, and it's just going to be so exciting once you dig in and see what he has to say.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So without further ado, let's bring John into the show here. Hey, John, how you doing today?
Very good, gentlemen. How you doing?
Man, this is doing great. Listen, I mean, we have Greg on now. We have you on. I mean, we got two really high people at the NAHB on the show. I think it's absolutely wonderful that you guys both take the time out of your busy day, especially with IBSx coming up. I guarantee you're busy. So
no doubt.
Much thanks for that. So, John, why don't you give us your background here? Like I say to everybody, we want to know everything from the moment you were born to this very moment in time right now, and you have 3 minutes to do it. So why don't you give us your elevator pitch?
All right. Well, I'm originally from New York, right outside of New York City, White Plains, New York. Went to Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York, where I studied business and got my grad degree at the University of Bridgeport. For the bulk of my career, I've been in the trade show business. I worked for Reed Exhibitions for 19 years. They're the largest trade show producer worldwide. Worked on various different brands, but the last brand I worked on was the PGA Merchandise Show, which is the largest show for the golf industry. Interestingly enough, while I was at Reed, I worked in their new business development arm, very much like I do here. And we launched various shows. Talk about working on something at the very opposite end of the spectrum from golf. I was on the team that launched the New York Comic-Con show, which is now one of the largest shows out of New York and within the pop culture portfolio. After that, I left and I worked for Emerald Expo, where I worked on their creative portfolio, launched photography events. We had a creative show for designers that we worked on as well. And then I also managed our jewelry portfolio. Had the opportunity to join the good folks here at NAHB to work in various different departments. My role on working at the IBS normally in a normal year is my team heads up the marketing and the advertising and sponsorships for the IBS. And then I also head up the member savings program, where our members get various savings benefits when they make purchases through companies like Lowe's and GM and Fiat Chrysler. I head up production as well, so video production. And our Builder Books program, which is our book publishing arm for NAHB. So the recent story is when we were looking to produce the IBS show for 2021 back in March when the pandemic hit, we thought it was a smart move to create a virtual complement to the IBS show, just in case something happened. Well, guess what? We had to make the hard decision along the way not to move forward with the IBS show and move forward with the complement, the IBSx as we call it, the virtual platform for the IBS. We made that decision back in that's October, only about 6 weeks ago.
Right.
And now we're forging ahead and producing what we hope is going to be the best online platform for the home construction industry that you'll see in 2021.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, you have 100,000 people attend this event year after year, fairly consistent, right?
Yeah.
So, to turn this and add virtual as another layer to something that's already a really sought after event every year. Like, I live and breathe. I love IBS. I have such a blast with IBS, right? So adding this as another complement to what you guys have already done, I think is going to be spectacular. And I think everybody's really going to be interested to hear, what it is you guys are doing, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's been really exciting. We've learned a lot. And, the one thing we've always kept in mind is let's take those things that people really enjoy at the live IBS,
right,
and see how we can best translate that over to a virtual platform. So I'll talk about that a little bit and run through it.
Well, listen, so I think, how do you take something so large and complement it with even larger virtual platform, right? Just band use. My computer crashes sometimes when I try and do somebody's presentation, for sure.
Yeah, well, one of the most important things, it's almost like what we're doing here. It's networking and it's talking, and I think it's one of the elements of IBS that people are going to miss the most. So I think it's how maybe other people who have gone from live to a virtual platform, it's something they've left out. It's how can we get people networking, right? It's one of the number one reasons why people come to IBS, outside of searching for new products, which is one of the priorities, education, networking, special events, seeing demos, seeing those products, not only looking at the products, but how do they work? How are they going to transform my business? So that's what we're trying to replicate online. And so it's those four things that we're really trying to focus on as we proceed, as in terms of building this virtual platform.
Yeah, and I can understand that. There's a lot of business done, with the trades, with the associates and the builders and what have you. So, replicating that, I'm sure is a pretty good undertaking. Why don't we jump in? I know you have a bit of a presentation for us. Why don't you walk us through it, and I'll pull it up here.
Yeah, great.
All right, there you go.
Well, that's, here's our theme, the IBSx, the industry together online. Why IBSx? It's experiential. It's different. It's something more. It's something different than what you would get from the live show. And it's online, of course.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to be we're typically the largest new home construction event in the world, in the live event, where we're looking to produce that online. We have a dedicated member base, so we fully expect our members to support this. I can tell you, when we made that transition over from the live to the virtual, our members had a choice. We gave them a choice. Do you want your money back? Do you want to not, register for the show? Most people remain registered for the show. We have over 9,000 people who are ready and able. They're looking forward to what we're going to present on the IBSx. So we're really looking forward to that. Like I said before, if we focus on the 4 things that are most important to our attendees: product discovery and seeing new product introductions, networking, special events, and education. I think that's a winning formula if we stick to that. And by the way, when the platform is launched, when we are online from February 9th through 12th, attendees can access all that content all the way up to March 31st. So
that's a bonus, huh?
Back, they can experience it that first week, but they can always come back to it all the way through the end of March.
So, John, one of the things though that we saw as being a benefit right out of the gate is so many times during crunch time at IBS is you have to make a selection between 1, 2, 3, or even 4 things. Now you're going to be able to extend it over a period of time and be able offerings.
Yeah. And what's great, you have to remember, in a virtual platform, just like everybody's doing now, right? They're going to come in and they're going to get as much content as they can within a short period of time. So in the virtual world, the theme is shorter is better, right? So people, even our education sessions are shorter, left over with time for, we call them semi-live, where they'll be able to ask questions with the speakers afterwards. Leaving time for product discovery and also networking. So they'll be able to jump into a room like this and really talk about, the issues that they care about, like they normally would on site at the IBS show, such as workforce development or the lumber situation or anything that's on their mind that they want to connect with other members about.
Yeah, very cool. Is there going to be some like augmented reality or any of those types of activities happening?
It's interesting. There'll be a little bit of an element of that. And actually, what's great about that is that'll come from our exhibitors. We have some exhibitors who are really interested in what we call in the virtual world our plugins, right? It's almost like a Matterport tour of a home. Like a tour like that of their booth. So there'll be like a 3D image of a booth, and they'll be able to experience their products and services by kind of entering a different kind of experience than they would, by just looking at a flat screen.
Right. Very cool.
Yep.
I love it. Next slide.
Yep. Right. So the important thing to remember is that we're co-located with KBIS, the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show. And that's going to be a very important part of the experience. So just, letting everybody know, just like the live world, if there's, kitchen and bath companies that you want to see when you enter the platform, when you register for IBS, you'll be able to experience and seek out all those exhibitors that are part of the KBIS show as well. Next slide. An idea of is going to be different. It's going to be a much different event than what you would experience in the live event, and really, again, sticking to those things that are most important to our members in the industry. So on the left side, you have your education, you have demos. So like the high performance building zone transfers over very nicely. The new American home and the new American remodel. Our team is down there now. Those homes are finished, and so we're filming those in a way that'll be a little bit more digestible in a virtual format. People will be able to look at one room and experience that one room, or experience the walkthrough of the American home and the remodel all at once. We'll be broadcasting just like we do with IBS TV. So we'll anchor the day with a keynote speaker in the morning and then in the afternoon, and then interjecting content and really meaningful interviews throughout the day. The exhibitors, you'll be able to live chat with them when you experience their booth. So if you're looking at a video or a demo and you have some questions, there'll be someone online right there to answer any questions that you have. And they'll be supplying their own demos as well. And again, all this will be recorded. And you'll be able to access it all through the end of February and through March. And again, that networking and engagement. So really being able to talk, to members and other people in the industry about, what are the pain points? What are their, how they've been successful during the pandemic, and be able to share those stories within these networking rooms that we'll establish on the platform as well.
Sure. So
Next.
these are going to be like breakout rooms then, like you have on Zoom calls, that type of, is that what it is? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Love it.
Great. Right. So just to give you an idea on how people will be able to engage with our brands, I was just talking about the one-on-one. So, again, you have a question about that new product, you'll be able to ask those questions right in real time during the exhibitor hours, which will be 10 to 6 every day to allow for multiple time zones. You'll be able to book appointments beforehand. So attendees will be able to get on the platform a couple of weeks prior, set up a profile so that exhibitors can reach out to attendees, attendees can reach out to exhibitors and pre-plan their week prior to the show. There'll be a little matchmaking that takes place. So if there's attendees that are like yourself and you want to reach out to people and network, you can proactively do so. You'll be able to register for contests, specials, and giveaways. There'll be, the video event schedule for demos and sessions. What's going to be really kind of cool is that if you jump in at any point when you're on the platform, February 9th through 12th, you'll be able to, look at, hey, what's going on now? Like, what's exciting to me? Do I want to look at an exhibitor demo? Do I want to look at one of the live demos? You'll be able to jump into things right away when you get on the platform. You'll be able to view, save, and share content. And then you'll be able to, just like, you do in the live world, you'll be able to, ask them for samples. You'll be able to get, swag that people will be able to send to you after the show or grab a virtual swag bag and collect things along the way. So we're trying to create that interactive experience at every moment that you experience the platform.
Sure. No, I think that's great. I mean, everybody loves the swag bag, right? I don't know how many things I brought home from my kids every time I go to the show, for sure. But I mean, just the sheer fact that you can schedule these virtual meetings with the vendors or associates, suppliers, or, to network and actually have the same meetings you would have to provide that experience, I think is fabulous. Yep,
absolutely. And that's how we're able to, as best we can, replicate the live experience.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay. All right. And then how do the attendees find exhibitors? They can sort by category, just like they would did in if they picked up a directory on site. They could do a filtered exhibitor search. They could search by, content. They can put keywords in. Again, they're doing that through matchmaking invites. What's really cool, and I think what they're really going to like is, so they'll be able to search by the new products that are out there, right? So if they want to see everything that's new through the industry and kind of look through the list of new products, they can take a look at all those products that they're interested in. And then if they want more information, they can kind of click through, go right to that exhibitor and ask questions about that new product, just like they would do in the live world. Right. Picking up virtual swag along the way. They'll have what they call like an imaginary bag that they'll be able to stick things in. There the other sponsorship and advertising things that exhibitors can do to attract the attendees to their booth. Exhibitors can attract attendees. They can let them know what they're doing prior to the event by sending out a URL and kind of having that direct link prior to the show. And again, they'll be able to experience that, the KBIS exhibitors, what they have to offer as well.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep.
All right, that's it. So, all right. So I got questions now.
Yeah.
So everybody's been doing these virtual events, like Zoom events or some sort of events.
Yeah.
How user-friendly, this is something I heard, it's very user-friendly. So that's why I'm asking. So walk me through how user-friendly this is and how do you get around? Because there's a lot of exhibitors, like you said, we have the pie chart, the circle chart here that you showed. Walk us through what we can expect.
Well, one of the things that we're doing differently, and Dave, I'm glad you asked that question, because what we've been finding, and we've been talking to a lot of organizers, not only within our industry, but of a lot of industries in terms of what's working out there. And if you can prepare people on what they're going to expect when they come on the platform, it just makes it so much easier for them. like, as I mentioned before, they'll be able to get on the platform and they'll be able to set up a profile and they'll ping people that they're interested in. And so they'll be able to kind of set up a pre-planned schedule before they even get to the event. But what we're going to do are these tutorials, right? We're going to do a webinar just on how do you experience IBSx? What is it going to be all about? No, it's going to start on Tuesday with our keynote with Mike Rowe, right? So it's going to kick off with this really exciting opening ceremony, right? But where do you take it from there, right? And also we're going to be, marketing it by segments. So if you're a dealer and distributor, right, we're going to be able to say to them, hey, you know what? Here are the things that we know what you're interested in. Here are the things that we think that will make the experience really good for you. And it'll be like a session, and then it'll be some dedicated exhibitor discovery time, some new product discovery time. And then it might be a networking session, right? So if you all those kinds of different ways to experience the platform will enhance our overall experience, and they'll get the most out of it if they look at it in that way. Sure.
Are you going to have anything leading up to the event to give people an inside look at the platform so they get comfortable? So when the event starts, they can move around,
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, we'll have the webinars. We'll do that. Yeah. We do the same thing for exhibitors as well, right? So, it works on both sides. Like how do the exhibitors best engage with the attendees? But we really, and Dave, you hit the nail on the head. We want to make sure that people are comfortable with the platform. They're gonna know where to find things. They're gonna know what to look for when they visit with an exhibitor. And everybody looks at virtual platforms in a different way. Like right. Some people, just like in social media, some people really go after it and they post every day. Yeah. And the people are going to use the chat mechanism, right? They're very comfortable with that. But then there's going to be the types that really just want to go in and discover, right? They're just like an Instagram. They're going to want to kind of go through and click on things that they're interested in, and they're going to want to look at those new products, and they're going to want to look at a video or a demo that an exhibitor set up for them. So people are going to interact in ways that are comfortable. It's our job just to make sure that they're prepared for that. Yeah. In a way that makes sense for them.
And it's interesting, John, because and Dave and I hit on this a lot when we're talking about what people are expecting. So one of the things, even at IBS, it takes you a couple times through before you get your legs under you and figure out how to best take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. But 4 things I think that you mentioned that are really going to hit home are your extended time for the use of your attendance, if you will, the live chats and demos, the matchmaking functionality. That's going to be key once that rolls out completely. And then, of course, for me, being a leader that's looking toward what we're going to be able to do with all your work this year, it's the future value that everybody's going to get from this, and be able to use it each year, building on some of these fascinating features. And I think that, you can't help but get excited, Dave. I mean, when you hear this and you hear John's excitement about it, and every day is something new being worked on, but people are really going to get, I mean, you hate to say it, but get their money's worth and then some. I mean, it's just terrific.
And Greg, you hit on something really important. It's that, it's okay if you can't sit there from 10 to 6 every day, but knowing that you can come back, the only thing that you'll miss out on is that one-on-one kind of connection via the chat, but everything else will be recorded. It will be there. So if you miss something, even the opening ceremony, from everything from the opening ceremony to the closing, all recorded, it will be there. You can always come back to it all the way up through March 31st. So, but yeah, I mean,
well, I mean, here's the thing, right? One of the benefits, if there's a benefit of what's happening with this pandemic, is events like this that are having more access virtual. This means more people from around the world who otherwise maybe couldn't afford to travel to Orlando or couldn't afford to travel to Vegas now have an opportunity to partake in one of the biggest building trade shows in the world, no matter where they are. So you don't have to be sitting in Connecticut like Greg and I, are doing right now. You could be sitting in Vietnam and attend this show. And I think that's is the most powerful thing. And you get the opportunity to schedule and network. And Greg, you said it right. It takes, by day 4, I finally feel like I figured out where I need to go at IBS. It's so big.
Right.
You know? And this is the same way. If you don't plan prior to going, you feel like you walked around. You have to have an agenda when you get there. And I think this is perfect, especially, you can start browsing everything that's going to be happening, now coming up. So.
Yeah. And you in the beginning of your conversation, you had talked about the international opportunities here. This is amazing. I mean, before, like, we may get people who never participated in the International Builder Show before, but now we have an opportunity, or they have an opportunity to access us as well as us them.
It's right.
Right. And hopefully that's going to enhance the live event in the future, because they're going to, like, now that, I've been able to access the IBS in a way that I've never been able to before.
Right.
That'll give someone a taste of the IBS show, and they'll hopefully come to the live 2022 show or take part in the virtual show as well. So hopefully, as we move into the future, this will be a great complement to the live IBS, and everybody can experience the event in a way that makes sense for them.
There'll be no such thing as a year off anymore. You're just going to travel one way or another every year. Just John, so buildershow.com, buildershow.com. That's where the information is. You see it scrolling across the bottom all the time. Tell us, how often are you updating that and adding new features? It's important that people don't just hit it once, right? You need to make it, calendar it, and keep going to it.
That's right.
Yeah, Greg, that's a really good point, because we're adding things every day. One really good, if you have any questions and you feel we have a really good FAQ listing. So if you have any questions, you can go there. Obviously, you can email us, you can call us about what's going on. But the real important aspect of what to look for is, look at those special events and look at the education and look at the demos and everything that's coming up, and start keeping track of about the things that you really want to partake in. And start keeping that calendar. And again, I check back in, that's starting in December, what's popping up along the way every couple of days.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so important. Every time I go to IBS, and this isn't a sales pitch for IBS, right? But there's so much new stuff that you go, holy cow, I didn't even know that existed. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's quite amazing what's out there. So I really think this is going to be a big success. So, John, my final questions here. I know Jennifer put a comment up as well, asking about the keynote speaker for IBS. And I know you already mentioned Mike Rowe. What is the topics for the keynote speaker this year? Is there a theme?
I outside of it being a surprise, I know that he's a very good friend of the industry. Workforce development is very important to him. So I think there's some things there, but I think you're really just, for the most of it, you're just going to have to wait and see, and log in on Tuesday morning, the 9th, and find out what Mike has to say to the industry.
I love it. We're going to get a breakout room so we can all chat with Mike afterwards. 100,000 of us.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah.
I love it. Well, John, listen, man, really appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate the update. I think what we should do here is, I know it was a last minute thing having you jump in. Let's pull some more stuff together and put this out there again before the show. Maybe give us an inside look at the platform up to our viewers on this show.
Absolutely. Be happy to do it.
Would be a lot of fun.
That's great. Dave, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, no. Thank you for joining us. And if you want to stick around, that's fine. We'll come back at the end and we'll wrap it up.
Love to. Greg.
All right. Thanks, John.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, Greg. I mean, listen, what a super nice guy he is, huh?
Yeah. He's, I'm telling you, it's great asset to have him on board. And, this is coming at us like a freight train. So you can tell his calm demeanor and the way that he's able to manage people is just super. I mean, there's a lot going on. And just a reality check here. This is one of our biggest assets that we have as a federation, right? So you have dues, you have non-dues revenue. When you talk about the IBS being the top show in the world like this, we have to preserve its value and how people look at it going into the future. So we transition in 2021 like this. It's going to be virtual. We're going to learn a lot from it. And then we hit it hard in 2022. So we got it all right in front of us.
No, very much so. And you're right. For as much that is on his plate, he was very cool, calm, and collective. So you gotta love it. But that's what you need when you're in those positions, right? There's always it's like live feeds. If it can go wrong, it will. That's one of those things. So, all right, Greg. So we're halfway through the hour, a little more here. So why don't we hop into what's the latest moves and pandemic efforts that's happening at the NAHB right now?
So that's one of the things that sometimes we lose focus of in a way, right? That things are happening so quickly. But if you look at the escalating material cost pricing, for example, including lumber, you've heard me say that before, how it was 170% increase since April, how we had to talk to the White House and Secretary Ross, and how we continue to battle with the White House and with Congress to be able to control that pricing. Remember the whole concept of keeping our industry essential through all of this, and job safety being number one, masks, cleaning, tools, and our hands, everything else. And we have a format for that. Well, that continues. And with everything, with the spikes that we have around the country, spike on spike, I mean, come on, we have some serious issues out there. And not to mention in many parts of the country, like where we are, Dave, with the weather change, we have challenges that way as well. We have to stay on top of our game there. We have some stimulus legislation that we keep working on to make sure that we keep people, everything from rent deferrals that cause our landlords problems. We need some rental assistance built into that package and a number of things. So we're constantly lobbying the Hill on those efforts. And then, of course, we'll get into it a bit, time permitting, is the Defender of Housing Awards, how important they are when we work through an election cycle and we get elected officials that understand housing and that they can help house America and recognize the value of the American dream. And again, we had great success through this election, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
So you touched on it already just a few seconds ago. Let's talk about the lumber and material costs. What are we seeing? Are we seeing any movement in our favor?
Yeah, so we get the reports and we can tell that they are definitely decreasing. We left some room for them to go right downward, but we still need to focus on some of the unpredictability. Because remember, we've talked in the past about how it's so unpredictable, you almost have to put things on hold a bit because you can't balance that line item that you have for lumber. Remember the outrageous costs we had, $17,000 per house. And if we're losing 158,000 customers, plus for every $1,000 that we add to a purchase price of a home, that's serious work. So we definitely have to stay on the ground here and make sure that we keep prices decreasing like they are. They're still a bit too high, but like last time, and one of the things that happens, and in this time, the lumber industry did face a lot of pandemic pressures in trying to figure out how to ramp up this demand, because we are seeing demand throughout the country that's causing this too. So there's a lot of moving parts, but we stay on top of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, it is, with already a affordable housing crisis that we're faced with in this country, it definitely does not help adding $17,000.
right.
to a home. It doesn't help. So I'm glad to see it's moving in the right direction. All right, let's hop into, you were talking also a little bit about legislation and stimulus. Let's talk about what we have going on there as far as the stimulus package goes.
So what we hope is, I think the last time we talked, we had active conversations going on between the White House and the Speaker. So right now, as we work through this election, as we see where the chips fall, that is going to be the key, is once we see that. So it looks like it could be the Biden White House, 117th Congress. The House of Reps will have a blue majority, but narrower. And it shrinks every day, it looks like. And then the U.S. Senate, we're going to have the runoffs in January, which is control of the Senate, which is critically important, because if blue or red, depending, takes control, we need to keep the balance in government, because it affects housing affordability and it allows us to try to control the costs. So everybody has to make sure that they keep their eyes on the prize, in a way, what's going to happen. We have serious discussions that have to take place with our landlords, with our members, trying to keep their businesses afloat and running up against the cost of doing business through this as we continue to withdraw again. Doesn't look like we're going to have a lockdown anytime soon, but the balance is we have to keep shrinking customer base and so on. If you want, Dave, we could talk a little bit about where building is a, we've seen things that were really unforeseen. Housing was on a upward trajectory, which we talked about at the beginning of the year, right?
Yep.
But now builder confidence in September and October, our Wells Fargo confidence index, which the world now bases our industry's confidence level on, it reached 80 for the first time in September, 85-ish in October. And now in November, we hit 90, unheard of. What does that mean? It means that we are now, housing is one of the pillars in this economic recovery that we have to try to go through in this pandemic. There's still tons of people out of jobs. It means that we maybe can grab some of these people for workforce development, but all these things balance off. But we have to try to keep up and address the demand right now for housing, because it will, we talk about it in the Northeast, for example. We've never recovered. Right now, we start to. Interest rates are favorable. We see some signals pointing in the right direction. Maybe a Biden White House promotes housing affordability some. Certainly, offsite construction has a green light here going forward. With this kind of demand, we have no choice but to drink out of a fire hose with this stuff and figure out how to address this demand using all the benefits that we can with the production and offsite construction modular, the whole thing with building systems.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you hit on something that's a hot topic, right? Biden White House, 117th Congress, you hit on all of those things. Housing affordability, how does that work in our advantage?
So one of the things you have to have Congress agreeing that people being in housing that they can afford is one of the pillars that this country stands for. Everything that we've heard so far from the people that the next president, it looks like the way we're going, working through some of these steps, if we do change the White House over, there's no question that the updates we've been getting, the administration has been favorable to our many things in our industry. But a couple places where they weren't were things like subcontractor status versus, employee So
Right.
that whole thing for our subs was tough. Immigration was a tough issue. One of the things that, depending on how things fall in the Senate, but that the House has always supported, is some of the tax credit benefits and things like that. So when you look at it in the balance, when we talk in terms of appreciating housing and try to recognize all these expenses, some you might say could certainly be curbed, might even be needless from our standpoint. Let's force those back down so we can get people, we talk about first responders, teachers, firefighters, people that need to live in the communities. They need to get there.
Well, they do, and a lot of the communities, like you said, they're it's out of reach for them to afford to live where they work. And that's definitely not good at all. All right. Awesome. So here we are. We talked a little bit about politics and what could be going on there, but one of the big things, especially in the offsite world, is the codes reform.
Yes.
We talked about a little bit about that the last time we were on. What are you seeing? Any updates on the code reforms?
So we have made some great strides in that area, actually. So NAHB works very well, and we work closely with the ICC in formulating codes, the model codes, and how we deal with that in each state. So, naturally, we have our own opinions as an industry on certain issues, but what we did to make sure that we were able to pull together the concerns that our industry has, building systems offsite construction included, and we set up our codes task force. I co-chair that, and I have oversight as a senior officer, so it's something that's near and dear to me. And we gave our report at fall board. We gave on this show the update on that. Building on that now, we're putting together our final report, which will be delivered at IBS. And included in that will be where we stand, how we've addressed the concerns we've heard from our members, and where we go in the future. And that's going to be key. So what we have to do is keep the existing relationships that are working out quite well and build upon those as we move into the future. I think that codes is an area where we have a lot of, it's a very sophisticated area, as we've talked about. You talk about even delivery concerns you have in some of the regulations, and each state handles them a bit differently. We got to get everybody working together and recognizing that we have to do so and address it in a favorable way.
Yeah, for sure. So Jerry McCahey from Integra has a long-winded comment up here. So sorry, Greg, cover your face for a minute so we can read it for the audience. If offsite construction reduces the amount of labor on site and the amount of time required on site, which it does, and also addresses the labor shortage, why is NAHB not recommending that the industry at least look at it as a solution? After all, your current building process is labor constrained and you can't change the constraint, then logically you need to change the building process. Is it not time that we learn from our European neighbors? So that's a hot topic.
I would say that there might be a misconception about that, but NAHB is very happy. That's why we do the Innovative Housing Showcase with HUD on the mall. We have thousands of people that will attend. That will be continued once we get out of the pandemic. But no, many of us feel strongly that offsite construction holds the answers to a lot of the future. I think what's happened and what we've discussed before is that it hasn't become mainstream yet, because so many in our industry, so many small builders and people, they haven't been able to figure out how to make it work for them, whether it's transportation costs or the regulations to get it set up. It's your sub not being able to adjust to it. My own company, we've used panelization. We've done a few different things, but site prep, for example, causes a lot of concern when it comes to these things in the future. But you hit it right on the head, Jerry, right? All the key points on why we have to keep looking to make it work as we move forward. That's all our job, to make it work as we go forward, because I think I agree with your statement totally.
Yeah, you know what, Jerry? I mean, Jerry's obviously a big believer in offsite, you know, with Integra and everything that he's doing out there. And, you know, Jerry and I have the opportunity to talk on occasion as well. And, you know, coming together in the industry is such a big deal. Even in our own industry, the NAHB, having Greg on, you know, John coming on as well earlier. This is where it all begins. And it's having those forward conversations. It's having the ability to have open conversations, but really to look at it with open eyes and move it forward, because offsite does offer a lot of great solutions. So I think what Jerry said is spot on. You know, I think there are better ways, and I think everybody does have their eyes open looking at it now.
One of our challenges, Dave, quite frankly, is that we have to unify. We have to unify off-site, and we've talked about this quite a few times. I mean, you ask people what manufactured housing is, why axles take a different place than modular. What does that mean compared to panelization? All the other flooring and wall systems. How about attic trusses? Where does that fit in? What we really need to do is somehow bring all these very good organizations in so many ways to sing out of one hymnal, if you will, going forward. And when that happens, I think when everybody's rowing the same way instead of scattered, I think that in itself will bring a lot of unity and progress to the industry. But you know, with the demand the way it is, you're going to see more and more of it, because you're going to look to get things done, and you're going to have to do it that way. You're going to have to find help in the ability to deliver the product somehow. And this is where the answers lie.
Yeah, 100%. So Jerry, soapbox time. Here comes my soapbox, Greg, and it's a big soapbox. The bottom line in our industry and offsite, and I say this all the time because it's near and dear to my heart, is everybody thinks they have the secret sauce. And I always say, well, if we have the secret sauce, then why are we only 4 or 5%? We have an industry over here that does this. We have an industry over here that does this. We have the components. We are fractured. There's not that one singular voice. And we've talked about this as well. And I talk about it, you know, with Jerry and others offline, that, you know, that's where this conversation is. It's not about being offsite. It's not about traditional site builders. It's about, how do we do it better? How do we build better? How do we build healthier homes? How do we bring affordability to those that can't currently afford a home in our shortage? So that's my soapbox. So listen, if you think you have the solution, you're wrong. Because if you did, you'd be 95% of the market, not 5%. That's what I tell them.
You know what's funny, Dave? I think we have to be a little careful, because I think I'm stealing some of your secret sauce from your soapbox. It sounded like you right then, actually. It's kind of funny, but that's the truth. You know, in all fairness, you know, why, for example, when we had the Innovative Housing Showcase with Secretary Carson, I was walking around with he and his wife. We had a great day, thousands of people. But why wasn't modular more included that day? Yeah. Well, the reason, it was because HUD footed the tab. We did the work, but HUD footed the tab. So they got to dictate what the agenda looked like. We picked up our heads and we said, oh, they're pushing their mortgages rather than being chattel. They're going to make it personal. They're going to make it real property now, so you can put a mortgage on it rather than, you know, having to fund in unconventional ways to buy a manufactured home. All of that made sense, but those are the types of hurdles that we all have to recognize and get over. Other parts of the world don't have the current situation the way we do. Look up modular sometime. And I enjoy the shows and what Dave and Jen are able to bring to the forefront in some of these discussions. But when I hear some of the speakers and go to look back and find out what members are here, and my friend Mike Weber that I was on the executive committee with, how does concrete come in, and how do you look and you say, wow, wouldn't it be great? And I'm not saying that everybody gets along. And when you put everybody in a room, everybody's trying to have the same message. We just have to bottle it and figure out the secret sauce.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's what this show's about. It's about bringing everybody together, whether you're an offsite or not offsite. It's about people doing it better. bringing innovation, thinking differently, and how do we make that happen, and how do we get our voices heard? So I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think we're starting to see it, Greg. I think it's a slow moving locomotive. It's not one of them new high speed ones they have over in Europe, but we're getting there.
Right.
So if we keep the conversation going, it'll be wonderful. So, all right, listen, I told you fastest hour of my day every day, 53 minutes, right? We're moving along. All right, Greg, what haven't we covered? We talked about hockey. We talked about codes. We talked about IBSx, builder confidence, economic recovery, and then, of course, Europe and offsite construction.
I think, Dave, that one of the things that we always try to do is pull it together at the end and kind of bring the message in. And one of the things that as we start addressing all the unforeseen issues that the pandemic has brought up, everything from what our workforce is going to look like, what companies are battling to try and stay in existence, how do we make all of that work together? And I think that we see that there's a lot of threads right here in offsite construction, building systems, using all these better ways to do things, if you will. And what we really need to focus on next year and into the future is how we are going to continue to do that between, Tiffany and Devin. Everybody's done such a great job this year. Your show, I think, is one of the key tools that we're going to need to do that, because it's a voice that we can unify and see is coming together. And the guests and the way that you have it structured is going to be key. The people that recognize that this is where a good part of the solution lies are going to be the people that are ahead and are going to really be able to push their companies to the forefront as we enter the 20s, the roaring 20s.
The roaring 20s. Hey, those were good times. I wasn't around, but I heard they were a lot of fun. So just to carry on that a little bit, one of the things about this show is we're talking with people all over the world. I mean, experts, universities from around the world. And with the prediction that I'm feeling, and this is my own internal viewpoint, so don't anybody go out there and criticize me. But what's happening is everybody's saying it's going to be the new people coming in are going to change it. The new people with the new technology. And this is what I'm hearing a ton of and starting to see these underlying, things happening. We got Google in the game. We have Amazon, right? We have other, tech companies looking at it. IKEA's in the, doing this. So when we take a look at really what's happening and how this shift happens, it might just be like the taxi cab world. You might have an Uber come out of left field. Now we know Qatar tried it. It didn't work so well for Qatar, at least not yet. But that game's not over either. I do think, though, that's what it's going to take, because that spawned a lot of thinking.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen. And I think when the technology changes, the building's going to change.
So when I saw 3D building for the first time, so HUD actually has it in place. It's just not quite perfected yet. But it's beyond comprehension that you go up to your copy machine and press a button and it spits out a house. But that's close to what we're talking about here. I mean, right at the Innovative Housing Showcase, they have the house and they have the car unpainted, so you see what it looks like, when it starts. And you scratch your head, you say, this can't be. But that's the thing that the reason why I like the odds, and we've always talked about this, is that this industry has been at about 4 or 5% for quite some time. Why? It's because, just like, I'll give you the analogy. Remember OSB when it first came out, and you used to be able to soak it in water and it grew by 4 inches because it just wasn't perfected yet. Well, as it did, you needed to keep up the times. I remember in our subdivisions, what we would do is we could build your house using plywood or OSB. If you picked OSB, you could take any one of these 4 options. And it was a whole house attic fan. It was upgraded shingle. And people did it so that it wasn't us forcing it into the market. Now everybody uses OSB. It's just a better product for what you need it for on certain areas. And plywood still has its place too. Fortunately, with lumber prices going up, you'd find that out too. But that's the whole game, is that you find ways to bring these things in. Some people will start with panelization. Other people are going to say, like when you were in DC, Dave, hey, roll the trucks up and just give me these units and start piling them up. We got to be out of here in a week. That's the way it's going to work.
No, for sure. Absolutely. For sure it is. So, well, we're moving in the right direction. Even Andrew says, hey, look, always great to hear the update from Greg Ugalde. So many important topics. Andrew Seeley. Good to see you, Andrew. Hope all is well and that you had a great Thanksgiving, my friend. All right, Greg, we're going to come back here in another month. I mean, what does that put us into? We're at Christmas.
Yeah, that'll be good. We'll have our Christmas show.
Our with eggnog.
Yeah, with eggnog in our Santa's outfits.
Hey, listen, I'm game for that for sure. All right, why don't we bring John back in with us here?
I think John did a great job, didn't he?
Hey,
he did do a great job. Let me put him in the center of attention. I think that's because he has so much going on. Well, listen, John, thank you so much for joining us today in the update on the IBSx. And I do really think that we should schedule, if you guys want to, we'll do a live interactive walkthrough of how somebody moves around.
Absolutely.
Promote it out there pretty good on our channel so we can get as many people to start looking at it, because we do have a global audience. I mean, around the world. It's amazing how people tune in.
And you know what I think will be very beneficial, John, is if then you can put it into your system, referring everybody to Dave Cooper Live, and use the YouTube, because it'll be prepared for you. You'll already have something to do, put in your toolbox with all your other tools. But I think people are going to be able to benefit from it, especially these that are looking for this angle, that you'll be able to show the building systems offsite construction angle.
Yep. Thank you, Greg. Any opportunity we can make our members and the attendees more comfortable with the platform before they get on it, we're welcome to it. And we appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, right. We'd look forward to it for sure. So I just got to plug it just so everybody knows we're going to be live on location tomorrow and Wednesday, weather permitting. It's pretty ugly outside right now. But we are at Unity Homes and with Bensonwood. It's a Bensonwood panelized house that's going in, and we will be streaming live at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. both tomorrow and Wednesday. And do not think for a moment that I'm not doing the 1 o'clock shows as well, because the 1 o'clock shows will still happen. So we have Building Modular tomorrow with Jennifer, and then of course our product spotlight on Wednesday. So with that said, Greg, John, any parting words? Just
register for the IBSx.
Yep, and we will see you soon with more updates.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, guys, listen, I really appreciate it. Please hit that like and share button one more time. And if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, and if you are not following John and Greg on social media, you should. They're doing amazing things for the community. They're looking at offsite. We're building a better future together. I'm Dave Cooper. John, Greg, stick tight. I'll come back to you after the intro. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.